Okay, so here is, let me see here. I want to make sure that my volume is still going to work. All right, cool. Okay, so Detective Nunez's statement. And remember, he was the first on the scene. Okay, so at approximately 14:56 hours, he responded to an unconscious call. He later identified as, which was Hunter, it says an H there, but it's redacted, reported her roommate, or no, it's a B, I'm sorry, Bethany, reported her roommate was passed out, not conscious, and not breathing. As I was preparing to leave the station, Officer Nunez, who was already on scene, advised of a likely homicide and asked for additional units. So this one, let's see, who did I pull up here? Okay. So this is responding officers with BC, BWC, Snyder, Warner, Nunez, and Smith. So this is a combination of all of theirs. So Officer Nunez was already on the crime scene. He had already stated and mentioned a homicide, that he's going to need additional support. The victims were later identified as Kaylee, Ethan, Xana, and Madison. Moscow EMS was asked to stage and not respond to the scene unless requested. A lot of people ask, why would they not want EMS? Well, number one, they already clearly knew that they were deceased. Clearly. And then the last question I got on it that someone had asked, I try to answer everybody's questions on the live stream, or I will either message back or something and try to respond back. But another question was, why was the coroner not there immediately? Okay, when you're dealing with a extensive homicide like this, the first person to, you have your responding officer, and then you're going to, they typically locate the prosecutor or what have you. But the coroner isn't needed. Generally, forensics is going to come in, and they don't touch the body. They're not allowed to touch the body or items like directly around the body, but they can process the crime scene. They can process the crime scene around it. And considering that it was so extensive, they didn't request the coroner until they at least got the majority of the crime scene, controlled. So after forensics had done their initial, what have you, then the coroner can come, which was around 4 o'clock, and then forensics steps back in, and forensics is going to do their part underneath the body and so forth. So that's the reason for that. Okay, so moving along from the questions here. Okay, so upon arrival, I seen what looks to be an H, so that's going to be Hunter Johnson, because there's an H and a J. So Hunter Johnson crouching near the entrance to 1122. Johnson was in obvious emotional distress. He entered the first floor, which faces north toward the parking lot. I announced myself as a Moscow police officer and heard Officer Nunez and Warner respond from upstairs when I got sight of the second floor. I believe this female to be Xana. I looked inside the bedroom, and Xana was lying, and it was obvious an intense struggle had occurred. Xana was obviously deceased, and there was blood smeared on various items in the room and all over the floor. So there was blood cast off on the walls in various places, including above Xana's body. Xana was on her back and on the floor in the center of the room with her head towards the west. Xana was in her underwear and a long-sleeved gray shirt. Both her shirt and underwear were covered in blood, and Xana's face and body was covered in dried blood. I could see what appeared to be defensive knife wounds on Xana's hands, and there was a deep gash on her left. Let me pull it down here. It's going to end up being her left thumb, her pointer finger and her thumb. But let me pull it up here. Hand between her pointer finger and her thumb. Partially covered male was on the bed and also obviously deceased. I believe this male to be Ethan. The midsection of Ethan's body was covered with a blanket. Ethan's head wasn't visible and appeared to be between the bed and the south wall. There was some blood cast off and what appeared to be arterial blood spray above Ethan's head where he was located. I proceeded upstairs to the third floor where he met Officer Nunez and Warner, where he had also advised the residence was cleared of any additional people. There was a dog that belonged to Kaylee in the third floor west bedroom, which has access to a third floor deck. It has no exterior access to the ground level. I asked Corporal Snyder to cordon off the area and Officer Nunez to start identifying the subjects that were on the scene when he arrived. I asked Officer Warner to start a crime scene log at the front entrance, and once Officer Smith arrived on scene, I asked him to stand guard at the kitchen sliding door, which I later learned was ajar upon our arrival. On the third floor, so I'm going to show you guys the brief images. So we're moving up to the third floor here. On the third floor, I went to the southeast bedroom where Officer Nunez had advised they found the two females, whom I believe to be Kaylee and Madison. Both females were obviously deceased, and I observed Kaylee. She was lying on the north side of the bed, and Madison lying on the south side of the bed with her head towards the east. Kaylee and Madison were covered by a pink blanket, which was obviously covered in blood, and there was a large pool of blood near Kaylee's midsection. There was blood cast off on the east and north walls above Kaylee and Madison. Madison appeared to be laying up against Kaylee, and Madison had what appeared to be wounds to her forearm and hands. Madison had a gash under her right eye, which appeared to go from the corner of her eye, which I showed you. I got you guys images. It goes from the corner of her eye to her nose. Kaylee was unresponsive or unrecognizable. I have no clue what's wrong with me. Unrecognizable as her facial structure was extremely damaged. I asked Officer Nunez to close the door to the bedroom so the dog did not try to disturb the scene. Other than that action, patrol officers left the scene as it was found, and it was later confirmed with Nunez that no EMS personnel entered prior to the arrival. I contacted Corporal Barrett and advised him of the situation. Captain Barrett said that he would activate detectives and get more resources en route. So once Sergeant Lawrence arrived on scene, he requested one of the responding patrol officers. They were assigned to take initial photos. Smith and Warner remained as security at both entrances. I located the dog from the third floor, took it outside. LCSO Department Olson transported the dog to the Humane Society on my behalf. Officer Nunez was interviewing a large group of individuals which were associated with the residents. Officer Nunez asked that I finish getting contact information for all the individuals. Once those individuals' names were collected, they responded to the MPD to be interviewed by detectives. From what I can see here, it looks to be BF, so that would be Bethany Funk. HJ would be Hunter Johnson. DM Dylan Mortensen. I'm sure I know the rest of them. I just can't see it right off. There's also Hunter Chapin, Emily Johnson, if I said that right. Or I'm not sure. But we'll revisit those. But those were the individuals that were on the crime scene. Of course, they redacted it, but we'll follow through with it in a little bit. So, moving along. Penalty perjury. Okay.